Hey, how's it going? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is for Figure It Out, and I'm wearing a real estate is a scam.com hat. That's one of my things. I've got my guest Dave DeVito here. I'm going to be switching hats a few times here. Real estate is why we met and all that kind of stuff. But first of all, Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I've been really itching to
Good.
have this conversation with you since we had the chance encounter back in 2022. And the thing that is really exciting is Dave and I have one part in common that's pretty rare in this circle, which is the marketing side and advertising and sponsorship and all that kind of fun stuff. And Dave, he worked for a company. He was selling the dream that I think is a household name. So it's on the big side of things and with big advertisers. But I don't know exactly how much you want to share about that, Dave. Do you want to give the audience some sort of idea?
Yeah, sure. No, so I spent a lot of time in the advertising business in New York, at a lot of different media and ad tech companies. But I think, Dan, you and I talking off camera. I mean, my time at Funny or Die back in the day, a long time ago, Will Ferrell's comedy website was a really enjoyable experience. Taught me a lot about being creative, how creativity and marketing really comes, and how that branded content piece really took off during a really poignant time in the marketing industry.
I absolutely love
Yeah,
it. Right. And
yeah.
so you also saw like some of the weirder stuff I have online. Most of the time, I think people don't know me for real estate is a scam.com. They know me because of dandoesdeals.com. And I got hair coming all over. It's for the chance encounters that I already mentioned, which is they're these 15-minute interviews, and it's finding out
Sure.
commercial syndicators buy box. But the other one, of course, is the 506B me. If I can get this hat on, that's the other thing that I'm known for, which is for helping people with private deals. One of the problems is you need to document your substantive relationship, or else the SEC boogeyman is going to come and get you. And so that's the context that Dave and I ended up meeting. It was through a LinkedIn challenge, I recall, and
Yes.
so that social media part is a huge part of this, but making the jump from advertising into commercial real estate. Well, would you say that the yellow brick road is already paved in commercial real estate for people like us, or what would you say?
Sure. Listen, I think that, I tell people this all the time when I'm trying to differentiate myself, 'cause there's way too many real estate professionals in the world, right? Is I really appreciate and value the creativity that being in the advertising and marketing world really taught me. I've learned from incredible mentors, incredible clients, incredible colleagues about how you can take that creativity and looking at something in a different way, and really applying that to me in now my real estate career. Not just in the ability for me, obviously, to apply marketing in the classic sense of marketing my clients' properties to help them sell, for a great deal, but marketing myself, but also just looking at a deal. I'm very investor minded, as you know, and a lot of investors will bring me their deal saying, Dave, I know there's something here, I just can't figure it out. And it's like a puzzle, right? And I think that the creativity that I was really trained on to be a successful advertising executive, I'm now applying to that mindset of seeing things that people that are more traditional can't really see.
Mhm.
And I'm really getting some early success since making the transition about a year plus ago into standing out in that regard. So
Mhm.
I think that's what I really appreciate about what my advertising and marketing career will always be within me. That's who I am, without a
Mhm.
doubt.
Mhm. Mhm. And
So,
I guess it would you agree that it's fair to say that one thing that differentiates what I'm up to on YouTube and whatnot in commercial real estate is I'm
mhm.
bringing entertainment to
Oh
commercial
yeah,
real estate, right?
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
well, so like
You are an entertainer.
right, it should work in theory. That's kind of my play here. Is I figure that we're all human. We all want to enjoy ourselves, and there's still that impulse to fall asleep when somebody's going through compression or expansion of cap rates or like in
Sure.
different MSAs and things like that. But as far as coming from a tech standpoint into marketing, and then after that into real estate, I found that there's one nameable personality difference that is consistently going to show up when it comes to commercial real estate people, which is if normal people see a list, they'll go run and hide. Whereas in real estate, if they get a list, they're like, oh, goody, I can't wait to start at number one and then go to number two and number three. Like they're heavily motivated, and
Yeah.
you have their attention fairly easily for the right reasons. Whereas like in entertainment and advertising, I don't think that's really the case. So as far as that transition, as far as like the difference in, I guess it's expected audience, like who's in the camera, who's consuming this material. What are some thoughts that you've had over this time?
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, everyone loves the leads, right? That's what they said in that famous Glengarry Glen Ross, right? The leads are the gold. And so, sure, heck, lead gen itself is a crazy business in our industry. But yeah, it's about, like I was saying before, the positioning of it. When you contact this great lead, are you a robot? Are you saying the same thing over and over? I mean, I hate scripts. So many people are like, oh, well, here's a great script. And not to say they're not useful as a initial framework, but it's a people oriented business. You've got to be able to communicate to people. And I try to say this all the time. I try to listen to what the person on the other side of the phone or whatnot is all about and tailoring it that way. I see way too many people, not just in real estate, but in sales in general, that they have that script, they're married to that script, and they're going to get through that script, at any point possible. And they miss out on the real gold, which is the listening to what your prospect is going to tell you potentially. There's
Mm-hmm.
that old sales cliche. You've got two of these, two ears, and you got one of these, right?
Yeah.
And when you've got a script and you're not listening, you're missing out on the real gold. And so I think that that's part of one of the biggest mistakes when you get that, lead list of, okay, I'm going to call these 100 potential sellers today, or these 100 brokers that might have a deal that might fit what I'm looking to do. It's a human business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, really a lost art, I think, too much, even for successful people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my next question then, because one of the other things too, like I know that this is too subtle for people to pick up if they're first watching their first couple videos, especially with the sizzle reel content that I have. That's like it's pretty far out there, like
Sure.
right. And I think the thing that people would miss, unless I have a chance to explain it to them, was how much of it was for SEO. Now, just
Exactly.
before this
Mm.
call, you were talking about like I want to get into like taboos and things like that because I do think entertainment these days it is like shock value is a huge part of it, and I
Mm.
mean like that in a positive sense. I'm saying like it actually is kind of exciting when we're testing
Mm.
your boundaries and like that's what
Yep.
stand comedy, for example, is all about, right? But
Sure.
when you're talking about big advertisers, when you're talking about, also if you're talking about people involved in syndications, they
Mm-hmm.
might prefer the straight and narrow to the racy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
so
Yep.
like first, like I want you to say a few things about that, but then after, I also want to get on to when you're talking to these different people, like when you're advertising, it's like, do you think there is such a thing as like going too far? Where is the line drawn? That sort of thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
so your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you do a great job, Dan, of being edgy and grabbing the attention, not just from the human that's maybe seeing your videos, but for those algorithms. I mean, that's the greatest, speaking of puzzles, that's the greatest algorithm because all these big platforms are changing their algorithms all the time, as you know. And so it's hard and you never know. One of the biggest pet peeves I had when I was a Funny or Die, for example, in that age where Video content was really starting to take off in the entertainment space, or the brand entertainment space, as we called it, well before influencers and whatnot, or the phrase of the day. I would talk to my brand clients when I was trying to present to them what we could do for them. And they're like, well, we just want you to make us a viral video. And you can't, guarantee a viral video, because again, you never know what's going to take off. And that's the challenge. And I don't care how talented, how experienced you are. We had some of those brilliant writers in the world that love some of this stuff, and we put it out there and it would hardly get any engagement. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, we'd have some stuff that, I would push on our create, because, being the sales guy, the content guys hated me, right? And but I thought I was pretty good about, being fair and balanced. They'd have something like, well, this is never going to fly. We put it out there and it would get millions upon millions of views. But my point is, you can never know. In terms of being edgy, obviously comedy is, edge is what's needed, whether it be a stand-up comic in a club or online video that's supposed to be comedic. It's hard, pushing that limit, getting to that level where you're going to create that edge that's going to get attention. Controversy sells, right? Mm-hmm. We used to say that, a lot of reviews, we get the engagement of the people that just hate it, that love to hate us, right? Mm-hmm. That was a phrase that got tossed around a lot. However, when you cross it into a little bit more of a traditional sector like real estate or anything others, you still got to remain on brand for what your brand is. You want to be that edge and push the limit enough to get people to engage, whether they're doing it because they appreciate it or they quote unquote love to hate you on whatever you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. But then you've got to quickly-ish transition to what your value prop is. Mm-hmm. You grab their attention with that creative edge, but then you gotta try your best to transition them back to what you're talking about for your core pitch.
Right. And so you're doing a great job of showing how advertisers need to get in the heads of people who are going to be consuming. But you were going to continue. Yeah, please.
Yeah, no, it's about kind of still staying on your brand, and every brand can be different within this typical sector, but you got to know what you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Some people have no problems losing potential customers to keep the right ones. Mm-hmm. That's one really edgy brand. Some are very conservative and they want no part of any edge, mm-hmm. but they can be very successful because that's their lane. Everyone is different. That's why I was, kind of a subset of what I was talking about earlier. We're in the human business, mm-hmm. Business, sales. You never know, but that's why trying to get to know your customer as best you can and still being unique to what you're all about and building that relationship is what you try to do. I mean, that's one of the reasons why TikTok is so popular. TikTok, even the most conservative real estate professionals go to TikTok because that platform in itself has got a brand expectation of the viewer. Oh yeah, I go to TikTok because there's some really silly, stupid stuff, but I like watching it. Mm-hmm. And so it's becoming more of a platform for professionals to go in there, but it's very hard. I have not really done a lot with TikTok yet. Mm-hmm. But then you get back on a little bit more of the informative, like a LinkedIn, which I love that platform, as you know. That's where you and I met with this amazing challenge. Mm-hmm. That's obviously a platform where you're not, the context of the platform is such where you're not going to put a funny, edgy video on a LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. But you could still do some really highly intelligent, snarky stuff that's going to get that high level of person. And you do a tremendous job of this, Dan, of really getting people with that more sophisticated humor, if you will.
I love it. Yeah. And when you talk about sophisticated humor, the first ones that come to mind would have to be coffee, tea, or 506 Beanie. Or I don't normally 506 B me, but $20 is $20. It's very.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Right. So that's fantastic. But so you mentioned that, if somebody wants to go viral, there is no formula for that, and that
Mhm.
was a huge, like, that was a hidden part of my sizzle reels, the things with the different celebrities trolling me and whatnot.
Mhm.
That was really one of the big things, was to show it's like, okay, even if you do this, that's still not enough. But part of it was, I knew that with where I was in my career, I'd be partnering up with some sponsors, and at some point they're going to do something that's going to get them canceled. And
Mhm.
I needed to be able, like, if I'm going to be investing years and years into somebody's business, then I need to make sure that I have a chance to stick a pin in it before they get any really bad ideas. But as far as getting canceled, so controversy, it's not going to work 100% of the time. I want to get
Mhm.
into dollars and cents,
Yep.
because like, I think that a big part about getting canceled is also you have to have an audience. And I mean, the person who
Mhm.
who got canceled, they don't necessarily have to have an audience, right? You could have like what was that? Like, there's like Walmart feeds, like customers of Walmart or something like that are like particularly, trashy, like, things like that, where,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like you can get canceled, but the one who does the canceling has to already have an audience. So you have to be a big thing, because so.
Well, yeah, because if you're gonna cancel someone and it's gonna get traction, you've got to have people that agree that they should be canceled, right? That credibility in their own audience, their own following,
And
you
then,
know. So
as far as numbers go, though, like you were talking about, like, big advertisers, big numbers, all that sort of thing.
mhm.
So like, I guess the other missing piece of the puzzle is, you mentioned that you won't know what's going to go viral, but I always figured that a lot of the time it has to do with actual paid traffic to the content piece. And so, like,
Yes.
can you say a thing or two about that?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we definitely invested in some paid priming of the pump, if you will, of a video to kind of get it going. There's a lot of things, whether it be, the typical SEO where you're going to pay to kind of drive traffic to a video or a content piece of any sort there. Affiliate stuff. We had relationships, as you can imagine, with some of the top entertainment brands out there who would post the videos that we would want to get highlighted up there first. Uh, Ironically, one of our most successful platforms that really our marketing guys did a nice job was with Twitter. We had a
Hmm.
huge Twitter following, which historically is not really known as kind of like a entertainment. Again, this is back in the day, 10, 12 years ago, but Twitter did a nice job with us in that regard. Obviously, YouTube, being a video category. Um, and then just getting other contextual, like-minded personalities that were in the videos to go out there, because again, um, there's a phrase called lookalike marketing. You try to kind of get that contextual lookalike. Okay, if someone's audience, as a fellow influencer, to your point earlier about the cancel, if the kind of content that this really powerful influencer is going to really be known for and whose audience is going to react to, like this lookalike type of content, let's try to, aspire to have the content to be placed on of there. And
That makes
so there's the psychographic, then there's the topical. Contextual marketing is a huge benefit. I spent a lot of years at really innovative companies that did contextual, where if you were a sports fan and it was a sports video, we try to marry it up there. But if it was more of a dry news video, like we had dozens of categories and we try to place them in there. Because again, everyone, as you know, has got a different like or dislike about, what they're passionate about.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
spend all of our time on real estate, and
Yes.
and part of the reason, like this, there's a reason why they say that, was it like over 80, it's like 80 or 90% of millionaires became so through real estate. So for me, I also had that, all roads eventually lead to real estate if you want to get involved in it. But one of the business models of a client, one of my major clients, as far as traffic goes, they were the winners as far as actual numbers. They were getting a million unique hits on their homepage per month. And so that's that's great. If you could do that in real estate, you'd be doing fantastically well. But you don't get those kinds of numbers. Like this particular one was about like supplements and fitness and health in general. I imagine Funny or Die had numbers that just, like destroy that, because, you don't get offices in downtown New York otherwise. But but when I got to real estate, so before I get to the real estate thing again, though, what their business model was is they would be able to get inbound traffic to their pages for maybe 7 cents a click, like something that was like nonsense money, right? And then they'd have banner ads on the side of their page where they'd be getting like 30 cents a click, and then, times out the amount of traffic it needs to get one click, and it would work out. And that was basically their entire business model. But in real estate, I've seen pay-per-click costs of $35 a click. And that was for one-on-one coaching. So, and it was profitable for us because, average revenue per click was closer to 300. So, so it was a big thing. So as far as what your experience in that is, what can you say before we get more into real estate specifically?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that run really lucrative businesses just arbitraging it. It's classic business, whether you're talking about digital marketing or otherwise. How much is it for me to acquire a customer, and how much could I monetize that customer? And that's essentially what you just described, right? If it costs me 7 cents to drive someone to that page, but I'm going to get 30 cents from the person paying me to place that banner on that page, that's a 23-cent profit. And they just turn on the fire hose and just scale it up, right? And same thing with anything. That's what business is. It's all about arbitraging, right?
Right. And what kind of numbers did your advertisers like? What did you have to report to them? Like when you were massaging it in, like that's what we were discussing earlier. Maybe you can say.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit different what we were doing at Funny or Die, because the majority of our deals weren't necessarily banner deals. I mean, we throw in the banners more so to promote the video. We were a video site. That's what advertisers loved about us, and so most of the banners that we had are what we call co-brander or cross-promotional, where we would place banners throughout the funnyordie.com site. And when he clicked on it, it would play the video that advertiser was paying for us to produce for them with their brand within it. In that regard, the views is all they care about. And so getting in the organic views, right? There's paid views and organic views. And so we were trying to get as much of that as possible. And like I said earlier, it's sometimes we'd have a hit, it would get millions of views, and sometimes it would be tough. And so we always try to manage the fact that the brand there's branding and there's pure play, just, monetization.
Right.
And we're a branding site. We're definitely, a purpose in someone's media plan was to get their brand out there in a really compelling video.
Right. So in a metaphor from that I use for real estate, then I think and I think it's why we're in this business. It'd be like I didn't learn about finance for a little bit too long for my liking. I think that's universal. Anybody who learns finance are like, man, I wish I knew that about 5 years earlier. But so there's the one side of learning the finance, but it seems kind of pointless learning how to keep money, aka value, equity, versus when you think that getting the wealth is just unrealistic at all.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like that as a topic in general, a segue into real estate, like that's the big one for me. Is I found out it's like, oh, wait a second, by learning how to keep money, I can actually get money. And that's why a lot of us are in real estate. So like, what's your big aha moment coming that made you make the jump?
I've been passionate about real estate for 25 years. When I was a young guy, I always was intrigued by real estate. Buddies of mine at the time, were thinking about doing a real estate club. That was the terminology back then. And then we all got good jobs. I had a great job in advertising in New York. Buddies of mine got jobs on Wall Street. And we just were young guys making good livings and having a good time. But what I liked about advertising sales was the free flowing entrepreneurial aspect of it. And that's really the bug that really is why I'm passionate about real estate. It's the most entrepreneurial business that you can find, right? Like I said earlier, it's 80% of wealthy individuals acquire their wealth through real estate. But I was ready to make the jump because, listen, advertising is always going to be creative. Don't get me wrong. But the restrictions and the evolution of anything from procurement to the pure play numbers, data is a powerful, necessary, beautiful thing, but it's also very much a killer of the creativity, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting into an entrepreneurial space like real estate, where there's many different ways of going about it, there's dozens of asset classes, as you know, there's different ways of going about it: commercial, residential, wholesaling, realtor work, private lending, hard money, whatever you have you. And the ability to kind of be creative, but back to your point on just taking some money and leveraging it, there's that word again, leverage, to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy getting newbies started, where you don't need millions of dollars to get started, but you just got to be smart in how you leverage that initial seed money that you have to grow. And then you reinvest, and then you go for more, and you have those stages. The biggest challenge that I see and the biggest killer of people's real estate careers is their impatience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not a get rich scheme. You can get rich in real estate, but you're not going to get rich overnight. There's a lot of greed, where I try to train a lot of newbie investors that can't get it done through underwriting to kind of partner with someone, and they'll tell me things like, "Well, this is my deal. I don't want to share it." I'm like, well, you're not going to get the deal done,
Right.
and that's the biggest killer. But if you're not greedy, and if you piggyback on others that are going to be generous to help you to get you started, then you're on your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like what real estate in most smart entrepreneurial ventures are all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyone could do it. Anyone could do it.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. It's not easy. And it's not get quick. And you got to be careful. And you got to
Right.
listen.
Right, yeah, and that's why it's so funny how when you see like everybody eventually becomes some sort of coach or a guru in this industry, and for some reason they're always talking about mindset, which that confused. I was coming from the tech side and I was watching. It's like, why is my boss, who he's not like a life coach or whatever, he's not focusing on that. He's flipping houses day in and day out, and then just figuring out a way to monetize his other time by basically mentoring people and whatnot. And I'd be like, why is he doing it? But no, the mindset is so important because you need to stick with it. But so I want to get how people can reach out to us. I guess before I say that, though, I need to switch back to the Dan Does Deals hat, because that's the best way that I can help people, other than messing up my hair a gazillion times and looking all scraggly. But I always interview any syndicators, investors, buyers, sellers of commercial properties on dandoesdeals.com for chance encounters. It's impossible to screw it up. And but as far as reaching out to me specifically, I got a distinct last name, so I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. That's the best platform.
Sure.
I mean, most frequently. If people want to reach out to you, Dave, and find out more about the portfolio that you're acquiring day in and day out, how should people reach out?
Yeah, no, I mean, DaveDeVitoRealEstate.com is my website for my broker business,
Mhm.
in that regard. I'm very big on LinkedIn, Facebook. Those two platforms are really powerful. So just, Dave DeVito, no relation. Danny was the dog's name. Danny DeVito was our black lad's name. That was the joke. Um, I've got a growing Facebook group called CT Off Market Real Estate Deals and Funding that I created about a year ago, and that's for everyone. That's for realtors, investors, wholesalers, lenders, and also buyers and sellers that aren't in the business as a profession. I, I want to try to educate people on the business through there. And I host a great clubhouse group every Saturday and Sunday morning. Saturdays at 8 a.m. Eastern and 9:30 a.m. On Sundays. It's called Burr Creative Strategies. A lender partner of mine, Joe Scarace, founded it. I'm one of his moderators. That's a tremendous group to
Mhm.
learn for free. And I'm always building my brand. But those are, you can find me there. Dave DeVito Real Estate at gmail.com is my email that I check all the time, obviously.
Awesome, awesome. And so I focus right now. It's spring of 2023. I focus on Wichita Falls, Texas. Dave, the C2s, the CTs for Connecticut, right? That's where you
Connecticut?
really
Yes.
want to focus primarily. Okay. Great, good
Yes.
stuff. So then the only thing left, it's actually not for you, Dave, it's for you in the audience. It's a public service announcement, which is if you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine like symptoms, it's probably the absolutely hideous red subscribe button that's down there. And if you want to get rid of it, it's totally free. You just click on the thing and then it turns into the gray one. You should see the gray one. It's great. And the other thing that's great is that if enough people hit that awful button, then YouTube might actually start paying for these videos instead of me. And the only trade-off for you is these videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can go ahead and ignore those suggestions. I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Dave, it's great seeing you again. Thanks for
Great
joining.
seeing you. I had a
Awesome.
lot of fun, as always. Thank you, Dan.
Sweet. Thanks.